Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, this is from The Age. It was published 3 years ago, which that would be 2022? Only option we had. Why Simon's parents sent him to the Scientologists for rehab. Ashley Baraclough, Angus Thompson, and Lucy Turton. Dated March 8th, 2021. When Margaret and John Millington's son, Simon, was in the grips of an opioid addiction, his parents wanted to send him to a rehabilitation program. The only one available was called NARCONON. When he emerged at the end of 3 months, he was better than they had ever seen. But he relapsed soon after and 4 years later died from an overdose, leaving his 5-year-old daughter, Maddie, without a father. Mrs. Millington said, if there had been options, we wouldn't have paid for Simon to go to NARCONON. It was the only option we had at the time. There were absolutely no government-funded rehabs around, she said. So my guess is that NARCONON's not terribly expensive. You know, as far as rehabs go. Because we know what's going on in the rehabs business in general. It's pretty dark, you guys. We were happy to try anything to save his life. We just wanted to get Simon well. NARCONON's Yarra Ranges facility suspended operations in Victoria in 2019. Parks Victoria confirmed the group's lease of its site, O'Shaughnessy Lodge, ended in June 2020. A new organization under the NARCONON name, you know, because that's one thing they're really good at is just changing names. Under the NARCONON name was registered in March 2020, but a spokesperson from its parent organization, the Association for Better Living and Education, said the future of the residential program in its current site was uncertain. John and Margaret Millington, who lost their son Simon to opioid addiction. Picture by Melissa Powell. But when it was operational, the facility followed a natural abstinence-based, no medication approach to drug treatment. That doesn't work, by the way. And it's very dangerous. And I'm not a doctor. I just know that. It was also tied to the Church of Scientology, which concerned the Millingtons. But they were desperate to help Simon. It's how they like them, desperate. How it has been controversial. The program was fined in Victoria in 2015 for making misleading claims about its treatment methods and has been associated with deaths in its overseas branches. Imagine all these things going on, and the governments don't do anything. Things that make you go, In a 2018 case, Victorian County Court Judge Frank Gucciardo reduced an offender's sentence in recognition of the punitive impact of the NARCONON program's restrictive measures. On at least 4 occasions identified by The Age, county court judges took into consideration people's treatment at NARCONON during sentencing hearings. The facility's position in Victoria's drug rehabilitation system underlies a core complaint. Contained in a new Health Complaints Commissioner report, the lack of adequate resources for publicly funded rehabilitation is directing people to services on an unregulated fringe that offer uncertain quality of treatment. County court records from a September 2019 ruling show Judge Gabrielle Cannon told a defendant, "It is to your credit that you initiated the engagement with the NARCONON program, to the point that NARCONON sang your praises and wished you to stay on as a counselor." Oh, by the way, they do that a lot in NARCONON. I don't know if other drug rehabs do that, but it's something about like they're trying to get people's labor. But I also think it's part of their trap to make these people that are clean now, right, become Scientologists. I mean, that's the way it seems. Wasn't one of the thugs, he had a Spanish name, one of the thugs that tore down DOA's barbecue and, his table and everything, and pathetic, 50-something-year-old Vato, or, he was playing that role, basically. You guys know I'm not prejudiced. I'm just saying he was playing that role. I mean, with those, like cholo-type shirts and all that ignorance. My point that I'm trying to make here is, I think that's how they got him in. And no shade to anyone who's addicted. I don't mean that. But what I'm saying here is you see how they trap people. In a 2011 case, a judge heard concerns from a psychologist that the defendant, who was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and had been required as part of his bail conditions to stay at the NARCONON facility, had been denied his medication. A spokesperson for the county court said they were unable to comment on judges' decisions. It is unclear whether the judges and magistrates were aware of the program's Scientology connection. Oh, they knew. Or its controversial history. They knew. Oh, that's very sad. Simon Millington and his daughter Maddie. Victorian Alcohol and Drugs Association chief, we can trust them, Executive San Biondo, said courts should act on advice from alcohol and drug experts when recommending offenders for treatment. I would be concerned about courts referring anyone into any private facility which has not been vetted and approved by appropriately qualified individuals. He acknowledged that the courts are in a difficult spot with the sector's capacity crisis, meaning they are often left with little choice over where offenders go for treatment. Everybody always has an excuse. You guys ever notice this? Just like how many police officers, sheriffs, law enforcement officials, government officials, we don't have the resources. We don't have the resources. Which, I mean, it is a valid argument, but sometimes to me it's like there's just so many excuses, A Melbourne-based psychologist with many years' experience in treating addictions and who requested anonymity, I wonder why that would be, said former clients of NARCONON told him the program had not been useful in learning to manage their addiction or handle challenges. I'm fairly regularly asked by judges for recommendations, but I never recommend NARCONON. I can't think of any particularly strong reason why NARCONON would be a suitable placement for most people who require a drug rehab placement as part of, for instance, a bail condition. Wait a minute, you guys. Okay, I think this is a different Schofield. I'm going to have to look this up. You remember Paul Schofield was the guy who allegedly lost 2 of his daughters in Scientology? I think that guy's name was David Paul Schofield. Do wonder if they're related. I'm not sure. A former Scientologist who spent 13 years supervising the NARCONON Australia programs said while NARCONON presented itself as filling a gap in rehabilitation services, its main goal was to recruit people into Scientology. Former clients of the program were pressured to stay on as counselors and become part of the Scientology spiderweb, Mr. Schofield said. That's what I thought, you guys. What they were doing was delivering Scientology to people who had a drug problem. I called it. I mean, it's not hard to figure it out. But an Australian Church of Scientology spokeswoman, the one with no name, said NARCONON used founder L. Ron Hubbard's drug rehabilitation methodology. From a convicted felon, drug addict himself. And he was on drugs when he died, too, so. But denied that the center delivered Scientology teachings to its residents. Deny. She defended NARCONON's drug-free approach to treatment. Harm reduction has one viewpoint on how to deal with addictions. This is not the model NARCONON follows. NARCONON works in people who want a program where they can get off drugs without the use of drugs. Go to NARCONON. Listen to how ignorant that sounds. People that are addicted to drugs are in a very bad place. They're not thinking about that. I don't think they are. Harm Reduction Australia Chief Executive Gino Vumbaka said he was concerned the rehabilitation facility seemed to develop a program based on the ideology of Scientology first, not on evidence. Mr. Vumbaka said NARCONON's abstinence-based approach would not work for everyone and could do more harm than good. If you just say you need to be abstinent to access this program, then you're going to lose a lot of people. You're going to have a lot of people harmed and potentially die as well, he said. Yes, many people have died from this. Many people. Mr. Vumbaka said research and evidence was needed to determine whether treatment methods are effective and safe in the long term. Some people may benefit from it. That doesn't mean it's good, he said. Like Scientology. He said the private drug sector needed more regulatory scrutiny. We're talking about very vulnerable people here. That's what Scientology wants. And we're talking about often very desperate family members. Again, that's what Scientology wants. It seems to me, I just want to add in, it seems in these dark occultic systems that are built, the first thing they do is to trap people. Go listen to some of the videos regarding P. Diddy. There's this channel called Conquer Soul, and there's another one called House of Horrors. And you'll see how they trap people. Scientology is a trap. The Church of Scientology in Australia has previously been accused in the media of crimes, including forced abortions and child abuse, details of which were read into the federal parliamentary record by then Senator Nick Xenophon in 2009. He's a hero. And also there were other government officials that joined him, and still they didn't do anything. Mr. Xenophon, who argued against the church's tax-exempt status, told The Age, the church's business model was ruthless. Where have we heard that before? In Ron Miscavige's book. And questioned whether the program was a Venus flytrap. Wow, I just said that. For Scientology recruitment. facts. There is huge demand for rehabilitation services in Australia. Some 200,000 to 230,000 Australians received drug and alcohol treatment in 2019, but demand was estimated to be as high as 755,557, a 2019 study found. The number of drug overdose deaths in Victoria increased faster than the rate of population growth over the decade to 2019. By the way, that's intentional. You guys should know this by now, right? All the addictions, all the things we see going on in society, it is engineered. It's called social engineering. The shortage of treatment facilities and places has created a market for programs such as NARCONON, according to a senior psychologist who spoke to The Age on condition of anonymity. There's a dearth of these facilities that creates an opening, not only for NARCONON but for others, to create a market for their services. Yeah, you know, a church. NARCONON is one of the symptoms of the problem. Mrs. Millington, who has campaigned for increased government funding for rehabilitation facilities in Western Victoria, thinks the government should be throwing more money at rehabs. I don't know, I have mixed feelings on that, but... So I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.